Welcome to the weekend edition of BTH from sunny Palm Beach, Florida, although it's not so sunny outside today. With Sean McCabe, I'm James Kokolak. I want to thank Nick, our senior NBA analyst, again for coming on the show, giving us some great insight and what to expect from the newly born NBA season. The NFL has been as unpredictable as ever this year, now with the Chiefs losing back-to-back games. Did you see that game last night? The ending 4 plays from inside the 10 between the Chiefs and Raiders? Wow, I couldn't believe the Raiders won that game. Scoring multiple times, coming back, so many flags on both teams in that 4-play sequence. For a regular season game, it was an ending for the ages, though. We have a great show lined up for you today with the usual waiver wire pickups, DraftKings lineups, and our 5 picks against the spread. Hint, I'm still in the lead with a 17-8, 16-9 lead. Both above the 54% professional average against the spread, though, so that's pretty damn good. Remember to follow us on Facebook and subscribe to us on iTunes. Subscribe to us on the iTunes podcast app as well as YouTube, all up between the hash marks. This week my rant will be a different style rant, but I'd like to talk about a subject that is sore for Lion fans, Cowboy fans, and now most recently, New York Jet fans. Without any further ado, this is my opening rant.
Your number one source for sports.
You know who I can't stand? Kevin Durant.
He looks like Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton had a kid.
Now, who can argue with that?
I hate Boston.
I'm the biggest Miami Heat hater you'll ever meet.
I just don't understand where you're getting your bogus information from.
What the hell are you even talking about?
Well, I'm sorry you're too freaking sensitive to handle the truth.
You think I'm crazy? I'm just getting warmed up.
You're now between the hash marks with James Kokolak and Sean McCabe.
The NFL needs to get their act together with this bogus catch rule. What is a catch? What is not a catch? Do they have to stand there and count to 10 before it's considered a possession? How the rule is so unclarified. There's such a gray area, which I don't understand how that could possibly be in such a professional league. Everything should be set in stone. There should be no gray areas in any rule, in any professional sports. This is why people are making the money they are making to work for the NFL offices and make the rules and make sure that everything is being followed by the rules. There should not be a gray area now, and there's been a gray area for quite some time. We're talking about Lion fans. Calvin Johnson catches the ball in the back of the end zone. What was it not a catch in the back of the end zone, or was he catches it, comes down 2 feet inbounds? When he hits the ground, he still has possession, then lets go of the ball, and it's no catch. That's a catch, to me at least. Des Bryant, it cost the Cowboys a playoff win to go to the conference championship game on the highest stage that you can be at. They screwed up that call. Des Bryant turns, takes 2 steps, dives towards the end zone, hits the ground, and then the ball comes loose. That's a catch at the very minimum, with possibly a fumble at the end. But to call it no catch? Unbelievable. And now, for the New York Jets, I can't say that it tainted the outcome of the game, because we were down by 10 at the time, and yes, we could kick the field goal, and that would have tied the game if that touchdown had counted. But how could they have overturned that call when the call on the field was a touchdown? I don't see clear evidence. Do you? Does anybody? It doesn't make any sense. The way that this rule is, it drives me crazy because it could be any rule. There needs to be clarity here. There's no clarity. And every person, any sports analyst, the broadcaster during the game said it was the worst call he's ever seen as a broadcaster. Calling professional sports. That has to mean something. That has to hold some weight. The NFL needs to make a change here. Strictly with this catch rule, because how much longer are you going to wait, and how many more blown calls and games are going to be changed because of something that has such a gray area? This is a professional league, and it should be run professionally, and the rules should have no gray areas. Do you agree with me?
So, I agree with you that it is a dumb rule. However, I think this is completely different than the Des Bryant and Calvin Johnson rule, because those were, if you understand the rule of the game, then those aren't catches. However, with this one, alright, to me, the call on the field is a touchdown. And then you see him fumble the ball, and then he regains possession, and it looks like he's out of bounds and regains possession, but it's not clear. So the fact that it's not clear, and the fact that it was ruled a touchdown on the field, that should have been a touchdown. But if they ruled it correctly originally, and then the evidence that it wouldn't have been overturned either way. So I think this is completely different than Des Bryant and Calvin Johnson, because those are clear. I think both of those are catches. Both Des Bryant and Calvin Johnson should have been ruled as catches.
They're different because they didn't end as fumbles with a turnover.
Yes.
The only time I've ever seen this is earlier in the season, and when I saw it on a replay, it happened to Todd Gurley, where he entered the end zone. Before. Yeah, and I couldn't believe it. I thought to myself, I've never seen this. This is the dumbest rule. And then it comes and it happens to my team.
Yeah.
And I'm not mad because it happens to my team, because you know what? Am I mad? Yes, I am. But you know what? In reality, it's not. The Jets are going nowhere this season. We may have looked pretty good over the last 4 weeks, being 3-1, but we're not going anywhere. This is not going to affect our season, but it's going to affect other people's seasons going down the road if it happens to other teams.
Yeah, no, it's an extension from a rule way back in the day. I mean, think about this. The rule is even worse way back in the day, where
from the Viking ages.
Yeah, exactly. If the quarterback threw the ball into the back of the end zone, it was ruled a turnover touchback for the other team, but they changed that because they wanted to develop the passing game a little bit more.
We already have enough Vikings in the NFL. The Minnesota Vikings are enough.
So that's where this rule is still coming from here. But the rule itself, I think, is I want to say it's a dumb rule, but to me it does make sense. You can't if you turn the ball over like that through the end zone and it goes out of bounds in the back, then that's been the rule for a long time, and I think it's funny that it's become a big story nowadays because I think it's because it's the Patriots. I mean, if you think about it, it's the same exact thing in a sense happened last week with Todd Gurley and the Rams.
It wasn't made a huge deal.
It wasn't made a huge deal, but
the Rams also won that game.
No, they didn't. They lost that game, right. And if that was a touchdown, they would have won that game. Right. And the Rams, honestly, the Rams dominated that entire game and still lost, and that's one of the reasons.
And it's surprising because you would think like LA is a huge market. I was going to bring up the fact that also not only the Patriots but the Jets. It's Jets-Patriots. It's a rivalry. You have the New York market, but LA is a huge market too. You'd think that would be a big story.
LA doesn't really care about football or pro football as much yet. But the thing is,
New York fans are just absolutely absurd.
Well, yeah, and also the Patriots are a very, very polarizing team. You're either from your New England and you love them, or you're from anywhere else and you hate them. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why I think this is a bigger story. Just like with the Deflategate. If Deflategate happened with like the Jaguars, nobody would care because like, oh, the Jaguars still suck. Like nobody cares about that at all. But you know what I'm saying? Like with the Ravens rule, that playoff game where I forget exactly what it was that happened, but it was a gray area. Rule, and the Patriots, they knew it, they were aware of it, and they took advantage of it.
Yes, I remember this.
And they changed the rule the next year.
Yes, it was, they lined up an offensive lineman out by where the wide receiver should be, and a wide receiver in by the lineman, but they switched places after they hiked the ball. I don't know what it was, but
one thing I do want to address, though, with this is that this is absolutely amazing coaching by Bill Belichick because not even as you said, the broadcasters were not even aware of this, and they thought it was completely absurd. And Malcolm Butler was more aware than the broadcasters. Now, I'm not saying that broadcasters know everything. A lot of them are really, really dumb, but the fact of the matter is, it's great coaching. Because I read an article yesterday morning that the Patriots actually prepare for this sort of situation on a weekly basis. They prepare for players to be down at the 1 or the 2 and the drill is Malcolm Butler strips the receiver and has it go in the end zone. And this is not the first time that the Patriots prepare for situational plays like this, and it comes out into their advantage.
Okay, so maybe even if the rule is in effect, you could go about it. We talked about it before the podcast. So maybe it could be a 15-yard penalty.
Yeah.
But it should not be a turnover because that just it doesn't make. You know what I mean? Like, if the ball goes out of bounds anywhere else, no, you can't be rewarded a touchdown for it. But if Malcolm Butler strips the ball out in the middle of the field and it goes out of bounds 10 yards ahead, we get the ball 10 yards ahead.
Yeah. No.
So how could we be penalized for the ball going in a direction we couldn't have, and the ball didn't even leave his arms?
Yeah.
I can't even see. Yes, he lost control of the ball for half a second, but you know what? I bet you that half the time when players are going down, they're losing control of the ball for half a second. And we just don't see it.
Possibly, but they don't land out of bounds.
No,
and that's what the referee determined.
When he is seen out of bounds, he has full control of the ball.
Yeah,
full control.
And it's interesting too because in most cases, like, it would just be ruled incomplete if it was like a play in the end zone because he was before the end zone and had that possession. It's interesting, and the rule. The rule, I think it was called correctly on the field.
It was called correctly on the field.
But the fact that they overturned the touchdown, which there was no evidence that showed that he was definitely out of bounds. Like, it looked like he was out of bounds.
Clear cut and dry.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. If they ruled it not a touchdown, now I can understand why Jets fans are pissed about that.
So now we're talking about two gray areas.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about how it has to be clear cut and dry, and it's not. So why did they overturn it?
Yeah.
Is there a gray area that fans don't know about? This is something that the NFL, and you know what? And this happened in baseball the other day, and football's really good about doing this, but maybe in a situation like this, they can do a better job of explaining. And in baseball the other day, in the Yankees game, Aaron Judge came back. I think you might have seen it, where he ran over second base, didn't touch it on his way back to first base. Joe Girardi had him take off for second base because if he stole it, he's safe on second. If he gets out, he's out anyway because they're going to go and tag him out because he didn't step on second in the first place. So it was a win-win for the Yankees in that situation. But they didn't announce what was happening to the fans.
Yeah, exactly.
So the fans, all they saw was Aaron Judge just take off for no reason off of first base, wondering what the hell's going on.
Yeah, and
now all these fans don't know what's going on because how do you have clear cut and dry evidence? Nobody knows this rule.
Yeah.
Everybody's confused.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing where it's a part of a better watching it on TV than actually going to the game because everybody in the stadium is completely confused, and everybody at the stadium is like, oh.
I had a buddy at the game.
Yeah, no, I had a friend.
He called me in the parking lot, walking to his car, to ask me what it looked like from the television because he knew I had a better view, and he was sitting 6 rows from the field at that end zone.
I had a friend at the game, and he said that fights erupted at the stadium after that play.
I believe it. Jets fans are. Did you see the videos of New York baseball fans at Yankee Stadium?
Yeah.
Well, Jet fans are even more wild than that. So I can only imagine. But I think we both agree here that in some way, maybe not the fumble. There should be a change there. They shouldn't lose possession. But with the catch rule in general, that maybe this is a little bit different. But as far as the catch rule, which needs to be changed because we know that at some point this season,
it's funny because
that's going to come into play.
They did change it like just recently. I think not before this season, but before the last year they changed it. But with the new rules, Dez Bryant's catch is still not a catch.
And that doesn't make any sense because me and you both agree that that's a catch.
Well, yeah, if you make the football move, like if he just goes down, he's not going to lose control of the ball, but because he wants the touchdown and he's reaching out for it. Yeah, exactly.
And that's a catch.
Exactly.
Any football move or 2 steps.
Yeah, no, and if you, just like with Calvin Johnson, if you catch the ball and then you're going up and you drop it on the ground like that, you're getting yourself up and you're put.
Yeah,
it's the same thing essentially as placing the ball on the ground.
I know, and that's what frustrates me. And the reason I wanted to rant about it today is because this may not be as the exact same thing, but it's so similar, and it shows you that maybe not only with just the catch rule, but there's more rules that have gray areas out there in the NFL they need to look at.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that the Patriots really just dive deep into that other teams don't. Like they know that those gray area rules that aren't really clear to every other team, and it seems
that's why they're the elite of the elite.
But they actually practice these situations.
That's why Bill Belichick is going to go down as the best coach of all time.
But like I think
I can't. And I'm a Jets fan that's coming, and Tom Brady will go down as the GOAT of all time. And this is coming from a Jets fan, but it's also coming from a sports fan. You have to, if you want to appreciate sports and be a sports fan in general, you have to like your teams and stay true to your teams. Yes, but you have to appreciate greatness. And something that we've seen, and there hasn't been much parity in the NFL because the Patriots have been the elite of the elite, but they have had those good teams like the Steelers teams and the Broncos teams and the Colts teams of Peyton Manning that have been good enough to take him down and haven't.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just you have to appreciate greatness when you are watching it, and we're not going to see a team like the Patriots, I don't think, in the NFL ever again.
No, just now they just put too much detail into everything that they do. But just going back to the rule, that I mean, you kind of harped on it a little bit. It shouldn't be a turnover, and I think it should be about a 15-yard penalty because you shouldn't be rewarded because what you did was you did lose control of the football, and you should be punished for that in some way, shape, or form. And I think backing that up 15 yards for most teams would be pretty bad.
Just put it at the spot of the fumble.
Well, yeah, but that's rewarding the team that fumbled the ball because you did fumble the ball, and like if
we got lucky and it went out of bounds, though.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That's
yeah.
like saying that if same thing as going out of bounds any place.
But this is
you don't get a 15-yard penalty for fumbling the ball.
To me, it's a little bit different because it's in the end zone.
I would say maybe a 5-yard penalty, but 15 is just—it's not a personal foul. You know what I mean? Like.
Because like, you could technically just swat the ball out of bounds into the end zone, and that would save you, that would still save you, and that's what I'm talking about.
Well,
here.
there should be more detail into the rule where there shouldn't be a gray area.
There's too much of a gray area.
Yeah, to where it should be that maybe if it's not a 15-yard and they do get the ball to the spot of the fumble or a 5-yard penalty, but if you're seen swatting it, like in hockey. The puck can go into the net off your skate.
Yeah.
But if you're seen kicking the puck
then
into the net,
yeah.
it's not a penalty. The goal is just disallowed, and then you move on. So it's the same thing. You don't get credit for something that you're not allowed to do.
So were you saying that possibly say the Severian Jenkins play happens the way it did, that they should just get the ball back from where the original snap was?
Yes.
Okay. Not where he landed,
but where the original snap was. Replay the down unless you're seen swatting the ball out of bounds. If you're seen swatting the ball, then it should be a 15-yard penalty because that's cheating. And you know what? I know everybody cheats, but who likes a cheater? In all reality, who likes a cheater? But it's not. I'm not saying it as a Patriot fan.
I thought you were.
I'm not even. I was going to mention earlier that actually, me and my buddy, who are both Jet fans, he was telling me about how the Patriots are cheaters and how he can never like them. But I actually brought up a point that the Jets did the Spygate actually in 2006, and nobody talked about it.
Yeah.
And the Patriots.
Yeah, they were just the first team that got caught after Roger Goodell said, "You guys can't do this anymore."
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So the Jets literally were doing the same thing.
And so were the Dolphins. The Dolphins were doing the same thing. Yeah.
I wasn't harping on the Patriots. I'm just saying in general, like I don't want to watch football or baseball or hockey or basketball if I know that there's cheating going on. I don't want to. But coming up next, we got some waiver wire picks right here on BTH.
You're listening to Between the Hash Marks with James Koklak and Sean McCabe, brought to you by an unknown sponsor we don't have yet. Now back to the show.
And welcome back to Between the Hash Marks. We have some waiver wire pickups for you today. Not too many injuries as far as skill position players go. We had Aaron Rodgers go down, and that's a huge loss to any fantasy owner in Aaron Rodgers.
Makes my trade more even from earlier in the year.
That you made, but for the David Johnson. Yeah, they both ended up getting hurt, so you lucked out there.
Yeah, well, he still has Todd Gurley, but I got the Andrew Hopkins.
But it looks like David Johnson will come back like week 12, 13, whatever, and Aaron Rodgers won't be back if any at all.
AP though doesn't take too many snaps.
Yeah, that's scary. That's scary.
Yeah, trust me, I'm a little worried.
But just diving right into it here, there's a wide receiver, There is a wide receiver that you absolutely need to pick up right now, and that is the one and only Nelson Aguilar. Now, he is currently owned in 60.9% of ESPN leagues, but before this week, there was a 24.4 jump just over the past week. Just listen to some of the numbers he has here. He is second in yards on the team. That's ahead of Alshon Jeffrey, just behind Zach Ertz. He is third in targets and third in catches behind Alshon Jeffrey and Zach Ertz. And he is 26th in total yards for receivers. That is more than Chris Hogan. That is more than Jordy Nelson. And that is more than Michael Thomas for New Orleans. So you absolutely need to pick this guy up. He obviously more attention is being drawn to him now that he had another touchdown last week.
He's finally starting to break out.
Exactly. He's finally starting to break out. And he is better in the slot position as opposed to being an outside guy. They need to bring Alshon Jeffrey in to be that outside guy so he can move to the slot position, and that is where he is more comfortable, and that's where Carson Wentz is loving him, and the Eagles are absolutely slinging the ball all day. They lost their pass catching running back Darren Sproles, so they're not passing it to him anymore. There's really only so many guys getting the targets. It's Zach Ertz, it's Alshon Jeffrey, and it's Nelson Aguilar. And Nelson Aguilar actually has more touchdowns than Alshon Jeffrey. You absolutely need to pick him up. He needs to be owned in 99.9% of leagues.
I like the Nelson Aguilar pickup. The Eagles have surprised me this year, to say the least. And you know what? I don't want to make any comparisons, but he kind of reminds me of like a younger Deshaun Jackson. He's thin, he's smaller, but he's speedy.
Yeah.
He can take the top over. He is more of a slot receiver, but he can definitely be the deep threat
absolutely.
down the
He
middle.
absolutely can go deep.
So I love that pickup. Mine is a more traditional. It's more of a stream pick. You can use it. You can use him for any type of situation, I guess. But Brett Hundley, I know you're thinking he's only played like how many quarters in the NFL total? But the Packers have so many offensive weapons. Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, Devontae Adams. Can you name a team in the NFL who has a better starting 3 wide receivers than the Packers?
And don't forget Martellus Bennett.
And you have a former wide receiver as your running back.
Yeah, decent running game.
So, their offense is so stacked that's why I had Aaron Rodgers as my MVP before he got hurt. Brett Hundley, all he has to do is come in and manage the game.
Yeah.
Be an Alex Smith type quarterback, and you have the playmakers. They're not going to ask you to do a lot. As long as you can get the ball to these playmakers, 10-yard pass, 8-yard pass, they will do work.
Yeah.
If you can get those off, you will get at least one over-the-top pass to Jordy Nelson or Devontae Adams or Randall Cobb or even a Marty B. So I know it's hard to trust. I know that he's fresh blood in the NFL, but if you're looking for somebody anybody who follows fantasy football knows that if you are going to win a championship, let alone just one game, you need to find steals down the line somewhere. And this could be your steal of the week if you have a quarterback on a bye this week in Deshaun Watson or somebody of that nature. So definitely go with Brett Hundley. I know there hasn't been a lot of injuries this week. I know a lot of players have already been picked up off the waiver wire. But if you need to streamline a quarterback, Brett Hundley's your guy.
No, I completely agree. And I think Brett Hundley, this is going to be one of his better weeks because if you think about it, there's no tape on him. And he's going against a secondary that they have gotten better over this past year, but they are not amazing by any stretch.
Maybe middle of the pack best.
I mean, they gave up how many yards to Stafford last week? And the offense for the Saints looks fine, but the defense absolutely does not.
Brees looks like he's never going to retire.
Yeah, no, and if you look at it, I know that just this really doesn't have anything to do with Hundley, but this could affect the game. And Drew Brees does struggle on the road, especially up north. I know it's not going to be freezing cold.
It's not going to be the frozen tundra.
Exactly, but he does struggle on the road quite a bit. So I think this is going to be an interesting game where Green Bay kind of lifts themselves up a little bit. The crowd will lift them up a little bit, and I think Hundley will actually play pretty well. But going into leaving our waiver picks and going into our DraftKings,
who do you got as your quarterback?
I got Kirk Cousins. I love Monday night quarterbacks, and they're at home. You can get them for $6,500, and I was initially wrong about Kirk Cousins. I thought he was going to take a huge step off from last year. I completely whiffed on that. He's had 20 points or more over the last 3 weeks, and he is facing the 28th best pass defense against quarterbacks. Monday night game, under the bright lights. Yes, it's in Philly, but this is a huge revenge game for them. They lost big last week, or last time they played in week 1, it was like 30-17. The game was a lot closer than that, and if it wasn't for that turnover late in the game, the Redskins were down by 5, driving down the field trying to win this game, and then the turnover happened.
They're so underrated. They're so much of a better team than people make them out to be.
Exactly, and the Eagles' defense is decent, but not the secondary. The secondary is absolutely terrible. They're opportunistic, so if they do get a pick, then the Eagles' defense could return it for a touchdown, or they could score a special teams touchdown. But their secondary is horrible against the pass. I got Kirk Cousins. Who do you got?
Brett Hundley.
Oh, no way.
So I'm going with my own advice. So if I take my own advice, that only means that you should too. I already told you everything about. I'm not even going to dive into why I took him. I just did.
All right,
Brett Hundley, go for it.
Who's your running backs?
Le'Veon Bell, Adrian Peterson. I went with Le'Veon Bell because I saw a stat last week that said it was like the Steelers are 10-1 with Le'Veon Bell running over the last 2 seasons. 10-1 with him running more than 25 times per game, and 1 and whatever. They've only won 1 game where he doesn't run for more than 25 yards or more than 25 rushes. And over the last 3 weeks, Le'Veon has looked to be himself. I think that he called out Mike Tomlin in a sense and said, look, feed me the ball basically. And what happened? They fed him the ball and he went off last week. And I expect that Le'Veon is back to himself and he is a must play every week if you can afford him in your lineup. And Adrian Peterson, let me add, Brett Hundley is 5,100. Great value. Le'Veon Bell is 9,100. If you can fit him in there, get him in there. If you can't, I understand. Adrian Peterson, 5,800. Why wouldn't I go with him? He's playing the Rams, but the Rams are the 31st ranked defense against the rush this year. 7.8 yards fantasy points per game for Peterson, but that doesn't say much considering that he didn't have a role with the Saints. So I think with the Cardinals, his role is going to stay the same as it was last week, maybe even be increased, and he's going to be just fine at 5,800. I think he's a must-have.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love your Le'Veon Bell pick. I was going to choose him this week, but he was just too damn expensive to fit in my lineup. But also with those Pittsburgh Bengals games, those are always very low-scoring games, and it seems like every game Le'Veon Bell has like the 120 yards that you need and a couple of catches for like 40 yards. So I think he'll punch it in for the end zone as well. And the Adrian Peterson, I was completely down on him last week. I thought he would just be a complete obstruction to the team because he wouldn't know the playbook. I was completely wrong on that, but going forward, I said going forward, I thought he would be good, and I also think that going against the 31st ranked defense in the NFL or run defense in the NFL, absolutely.
Look what Leonard Fournette did to him last week.
Yeah, great segue because my running backs are Leonard Fournette and Orleans Darkwa. Leonard Fournette, 8,600, and this is why I chose him over Le'Veon Bell because he's slightly cheaper, so I was able to fit more around with my roster.
Got an extra 500, absolutely.
Yeah. But the Jags, they have the best running attack in the NFL right now. They're running the ball more than anybody, and the Colts are absolutely terrible against the run. This is like a match made in heaven. They are 28th against the run in yards per carry. The Jags are going to run the ball all over him. I expect Fournette to be healthy. Yes, he had that little bit of a scare, but it honestly looks like he's going to be completely fine. And also, the Jags, they are pretty good coming off of a loss. And their defense, I think, is going to control this game. They're not going to allow any passing at all. Their defense against the pass is absolutely amazing. Their defense against the run...
They've surprised me this year, the Jags.
But their defense against the run is oddly like one of the worst in the NFL as well. But the Colts can't run the ball, so I'm completely fine with that.
Frank Gore is definitely aging.
Yeah, so I think the Colts are completely inept on offense right now. That's why I took Leonard... or both sides of the ball, the Colts are completely inept. That's why I'm taking Leonard Fournette. Orleans Darkwa, this is my value pick here. He's 3,700. You're getting a starting running back for 3,700. And yes, he played against the Seahawks, but the Seahawks against the run
have not been that great.
Exactly, they're not. They have they have a great secondary
and a great linebackers, but their defensive line is not all that great.
Exactly, so that's why I like Darkwa. And yes, they're coming off of a bye, so they're going to play up to the match. But it is in New York, and I think. But I look at Seattle kind of the same way as Denver, a team that they kind of struggle offensively. They don't really have an offensive line. Everything on the offense really isn't working out, and they have good defenses, but their defensive line's not that good. It's the secondary that's really well put together. So I think the Giants are going to have that same kind of game plan where they simplify the offense, they run the ball, they throw their tight end, and like back when they had Odell and Brandon Marshall and Sterling Shepard, they're trying to get all these receivers their catches, and they're complicating the offense for Eli. They just need to simplify things, and look how that happened last week.
Let me add to that, and you just mentioned to run the ball and throw it to their tight end. Well, I actually was going to take Evan Ingram for 4,400, and I decided not to because the Seahawks secondary and their middle linebackers are so strong that I don't think Evan Ingram's going to have a big game. Yeah. Therefore, I think that the running game, if anybody on the Giants is going to have the big game, I love the Darkwa pick.
Yeah, the only problem, I do have the Darkwa pick. I'm still going to take him, but I'm just a little nervous if Seattle gets out to that big lead. The Giants are going to completely abandon the run, and they're just not going to do it.
Or if or if Wayne Gallman enters the game.
Yeah, that's true. But I think Darkwa is more the pure rushing attack, so I think they're going to really use him. With my wide receivers, I took Julio Jones, Pierre Garçon, and Terrell Pryor for my wide receiver spots. With Julio Jones, he's 8,500. The dude has to score at some point, and this is the perfect matchup. It's too damn juicy. It's against, if not the worst passing defense in the NFL. Second worst or third worst. Absolutely one of the bottom 5 worst defenses in the NFL. They're giving up mad yards all over the place. I just have a little problem with the Falcons right now is that they can't score any damn points in the second half. Going all the way back to last year's Super Bowl, it seems like they just can't make that second half adjustment. But I'm expecting Julio Jones to have a couple of touchdowns in the first half and the Falcons get out to that big lead right away.
He's definitely been a disappointment thus far in fantasy.
Yeah. So going against the second worst D, you gotta take Julio Jones. Other wide receiver, Pierre Garçon, 5,800. Look, it doesn't matter who's his quarterback, whether it's Breather, whether it's Hoyer, it doesn't matter. He had 12 targets last week, and the Dallas D is okay, but their secondary is absolutely terrible. Pierre Garçon is the absolute number 1 guy. Get him 5,800. And I have Terrell Pryor, 5,300. I love stacking my quarterback with a wide receiver. If you hear Kirk Cousins, you gotta be thinking, oh, Sean's taking a Redskins wide receiver. I'm taking Terrell Pryor. The Eagles secondary is absolutely terrible, like I was saying. He's going to get mad targets. He hasn't had that many targets over the last few weeks, but if you look at when they played the Eagles in week 1, he had 11 targets, and he had a decent game. That's why I'm taking Terrell Pryor. Who are your wide receivers?
I went kind of low on my wide receivers this week, averaging 5,800, 5,500. But Devontae Adams, Rashard Matthews, Demaryius Thomas. All solid picks for the value that I got them at. Rashard Matthews, he's the number 1 target on Tennessee. Marcus Mariota. A stat that I'd love to bring up that people don't realize how smart he is with the ball. He's been in the league 3 years now. That's a long time to play in the NFL. That's actually the average career of an NFL player. He has never thrown an interception in the red zone. Wow. That is phenomenal.
Yeah, that's a hell of a stat.
Take Rashard Matthews this week. They're going up against Cleveland. They're the 8th best against opposing wide receivers. But I think Tennessee is due for that breakout game again. Demaryius Thomas. Need I say more? Emmanuel Sanders is not playing this week. Demaryius Thomas is filled with talent.
Absolutely.
5,800, you have to take him. He's going to get 12 to 15 targets. Devontae Adams. Here's something crazy that people don't realize is that Adams wasn't targeted in the 8 snaps logged by Aaron Rodgers before he was hurt. Following that, he had 10 targets from Brett Hundley, with 5 receptions, 54 yards, and a touchdown.
Hey, and that touchdown was in garbage time, but fantasy doesn't even care about garbage time.
There's no garbage time in fantasy. I'll watch a game, whether it's 55 to 10, if I have a player who could win me a fantasy game.
Absolutely.
Whether it's a kicker or not. But Adams has, even with Jordy Nelson having that number 1 wide receiver tag, Adams has been the number 1 wide receiver for Aaron Rodgers target-wise, and how many targets he gets per game, receptions. He may not have as many touchdowns as Jordy Nelson, but what real fans should know is that he really is their number 1 wide receiver. Now, I want to compare the stats very, very, very quickly between him and Jordy Nelson, who is their number 1. Reception-wise, 28 for Devontae Adams. How many for Jordy?
Jordy Nelson has 25 receptions.
Okay, so Devontae Adams has 3 more. How many yards does Jordy have on the year?
Jordy has 290 yards.
339 for Devontae Adams with 56.5 on average per game and 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, Jordy Nelson does have 6 touchdowns.
So he's got 1 more touchdown on the year, but Adams has more receptions and more yards on the year than Jordy Nelson. Yeah. So stats-wise, you're looking at the number 1 wide receiver, and I don't think that that's going to change this week. Devontae Adams, I think
one thing I just want to say to combat that a little bit is Jordy Nelson, he did leave early in 2 of those games. So that's really what picked up Devontae Adams' numbers. But you have to still take that into account because Jordy hasn't been Jordy when he is banged up.
He's been kind of touchdown dependent.
Yeah, exactly. And when he does get banged up a little bit, they take him out for the rest of the game, and then Adams really brings it on.
They're very cautious with him.
And it looks like Adams is the guy with Hundley. I mean, even though it was in garbage time, that touchdown.
He's their young wide receiver.
Exactly.
He's Randall Cobb has been injury prone.
Yeah.
Adams is the guy. I highly recommend going with Adams this week. And for tight end, Jason Witten. He's playing San Francisco. The opponent ranking is second, but San Francisco just lost a top-notch linebacker. They haven't played without that top-notch linebacker yet. Go with Jason Witten this week. Coming off a bye, Dak Prescott, they just have this. No matter who the quarterback is for the Cowboys, I think Jason Witten is just that security blanket.
Yeah, my tight end, I got Kyle Rudolph. There's no Stephon Diggs, so it's going to be Kyle Rudolph and Adam Thielen. That's it. For as far as the passing game goes, that are reliable targets. They're going against a team that's 20th against the tight end. The Baltimore Ravens. They're 20th against the tight ends. Like Zach Miller last week against the Bears, he had a touchdown. They're just giving up touchdowns to tight ends. Mercedes Lewis had that big game for Jacksonville back in London. And the Ravens are completely overrated. So it is everything about the Ravens is completely overrated. Their defense is overrated. Their offense is overrated. I'm going with Kyle Rudolph there. And he's had 9 targets over the last 2 weeks. I expect him to have a lot of action this week. With my flex play, I got Cooper Kupp. I love Cooper Kupp. He's 4,600. LA has had 2 rough matchups the last couple weeks because of their secondary matchups. Seattle and Jacksonville, both amazing secondaries. And Arizona's secondary is supposed to be amazing, but they've been giving up mad passing touchdowns to just about every quarterback they have played. They're 27th right now against quarterback.
How is that possible with a Patrick Peterson?
I don't understand it as well. And Los Angeles is used to the trip to London. They went to London last year and they played against the Giants last year and they looked pretty well. They're going to be used to that. And they are flying straight from Jacksonville. They didn't go back home to Los Angeles. They went straight from Jacksonville, so they have that edge over Arizona. And I expect Cooper Kupp to be, even though this is his first year in the league, he has a bunch of veterans around him that are going to be prepping him for this trip. I expect him to have a big day.
Alvin Kamara.
Okay.
It's my flex play. 5,600. It's kind of expensive for a flex, I guess, but he's going up against the 23rd in rushing defense in Green Bay. Alvin Kamara is a great backfield receptionist, I should say. He's going to get a lot of passes thrown out of the backfield. Drew Brees is, like you said, he's not that great on the road. I could see him dumping the ball off a lot to Kamara, letting Kamara make plays in space rather than trying to throw the ball downfield where he's not in the dome. He's going to have wind, things of that nature, which he doesn't deal with at home. Without Adrian Peterson in the mix in New Orleans anymore, Kamara, I think, will be the guy moving forwards. With Mark Ingram, I don't think Mark Ingram is going to be the number 1 and Kamara the number 2. I think it's going to be 1A and 1B. Therefore, Alvin Kamara, great pickup for this week going up against Green Bay. I know it's in Green Bay, but Green Bay's defense has always been shaky. Defense-wise, for the same reasons that you just said, I'm taking the Rams defense. They handle playing in London very well. And for teams that don't, it's different. It's doing something for the first time. It's stepping outside your comfort zone. You're not on your same routine. You're not training in your facility, flying 5 hours, playing a football game, and flying home that night. It doesn't work like that going to London. And the Rams are used to it, and the Cardinals aren't. And I think that that's going to play a huge effect in why the Rams defense. They're going up against the opponent ranking 22nd in the Cardinals. And they average 11.5 fantasy points a game for a defense, which is actually really good.
Yeah, I got Pittsburgh for 3,200. They're going against Cincinnati's offense, and Cincinnati's offense, they have looked better over the last couple of weeks, but they really in my opinion, they haven't faced a real defense. And Pittsburgh has been amazing against the pass. I think they're going to really shut down AJ Green, and Cincinnati hasn't been able to figure out how to use Joe Mixon, how to use Giovanni Bernard, how to use any of their running backs, to say the least. This is going to be a run-heavy game. I don't expect a lot of scoring, and that's why Pittsburgh, I think, is the start here. They're for 3,200. So that's our DraftKings lineups. Follow our advice. James is really the expert with DraftKings advice, but I actually had a decent week last week. So
I did not.
So I'm expecting to keep that momentum going.
It happens.
So coming up next, we have our picks against the spread. It's your favorite stuff. We're winning you money. We both went 4-1 last week. You're listening to BTH.
You're listening to Between the Hash Marks with James Koklak and Sean McCabe, brought to you by an unknown sponsor we don't have yet. Now back to the show.
Who's in the lead right now? You're looking at him. So what's going on? I want to talk to you about this head-to-head matchup that we're having. We went head-to-head last week, Atlanta, Miami.
Okay. Oh, you want to bring up the one game I lost? I'll bring up the one game you lost.
Well, no, I only bring it up because at the end of the last podcast, you said we were going head-to-head on it.
Yeah, we were going head-to-head on it. No, that's right. And I didn't hear any words from you in the first half of that game. Nonetheless, I didn't say anything myself. But I was thinking about just sending you a couple of texts like, hey, what's going on? It's 17-0. Looks like I'm right and you're going to be wrong. But because football is a crazy sport, I decided not to say anything.
That's why sports are great.
Yeah. But yeah, no, you did well in that game. And I mean, if I did win that game, I would have gone 5-0. Which I gotta lose some of them. So
might have been the pick of the year so far, picking the Dolphins to pick the Falcons in Atlanta.
I mean, it's not like you picked the Dolphins to win. You just picked them to cover a 12-point spread.
Well, yeah, but
you didn't pick them to win. I'm not giving you that credit. I'm not giving you that credit.
Picked them. Yeah, it wasn't Eddie's pick. Eddie's pick was the pick of the year.
Yeah,
actually.
Eddie's pick was the pick of the year. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm 16-9. That's 64%. You're 17-8. That's 68%. So obviously you're doing a little bit better than me by one game. I'm currently losing the bet we have, where currently I am going to have to wear
a nice Santonio Holmes jersey for you.
Santonio Holmes jersey. At least it's him and not like Mark Sanchez or Tim Tebow or anything like that.
I'm gonna go out and buy a butt fumble jersey.
Oh,
now.
Please do not. But anyway, I just want to say one thing here. I did do my picks week 1. I know that it wasn't on the air, but with those picks, I did go 4-1. So I am 20-10 overall. It's not against you or anything, but I do want to keep that record. I want to be saying that on the air so people don't forget that I do have that 66% 20-10 overall.
It's better than 64%.
Yeah, true that. What are your picks?
My picks. I only have one underdog this week. I'm going to start with the underdog. But my favorites aren't overwhelming favorites. My one underdog should be a favorite, in my opinion. Denver is a +1 underdog in Los Angeles against the Chargers. How is Denver an underdog in this game? But enough said. I don't need to explain myself here. If you can get Denver as an underdog in this game, put your money on Denver.
Yeah, no, I got Denver as well. I got it at a pick'em, which I think is still a little bit off. Like, I think Denver should honestly be about a 2.5, 3-point favorite going into this game.
At least.
But I think this number has jumped a lot because Denver got embarrassed at home on Sunday night, so a lot of people are reacting to that. And I've told you before, I love teams that get embarrassed on prime time. I love them coming back the next week. I think this game that they looked at the Giants game. Everybody's aware of the spread. Everybody's aware of the spread, and they kind of just didn't give it all you got. And when you don't give it all you got in the NFL,
you're gonna lose.
You're gonna lose because
every game.
Because it's not college where there's different levels. Exactly, different levels of talent. And if you're in the NFL, you're an NFL player. You deserve to be there. And honestly, the Chargers don't have any home field advantage. They're honestly better on the road. It's really demoralizing, in my opinion, when you're playing at home. The stadium is half filled, and then half of those fans are for the other team.
How could somebody enjoy that?
Yeah, exactly. So when the Chargers go on the road, in my opinion, they have a better chance of covering the spread or winning the game outright. So I agree. You got them at +1. I got them at pick'em. My second pick here is I love the Rams -3.5 of the Cardinals. If you can get a -3, even better. But I got 3.5. This game's in London. We were talking about this earlier. And honestly, this happened earlier in the year where Jacksonville went to London, and they were prepared because they've done this before. The Rams, same case. They went to London last year. They did well in London last year. They know what this trip is like, and they didn't go back to Los Angeles, just like I mentioned before. They stayed in Jacksonville, and then they traveled, so they have that advantage already over Arizona, and I think it's just an extra advantage. Not to mention the Arizona secondary is super suspect. They have great players in the secondary, but they've been playing they've been playing terribly. And I thought the Rams, they played well over the last 2 weeks, and they had a chance to win both over the last 2 games, but they only won one. But I thought they should have beaten Seattle. So this team has completely overperformed to where I thought they would be, and their offense is so balanced. Jared Goff is looking like the real deal. He's got some real receivers in Sammy Watkins and Cooper Kupp, and they have one of the best running backs in the game, and that offensive line has really shaped up. Give me the Rams -3.5.
Give me Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh 5.5. over the Bengals. I know that these games are usually close, but Pittsburgh has had too many close games, I think. Pittsburgh has had too many close games in recent memory where they should be. I know they just beat the Chiefs, close game.
It was really their defense that led them there.
Le'Veon Bell, I think, is going to just... Le'Veon Bell is going to take them over the top sooner or later. And he's already starting to do that over the last couple of weeks, as I mentioned. They have too many good players. The Bengals are not the Bengals of 4 years ago. Their defense aged a little bit. I don't like Andy Dalton. I don't like the Bengals as a team. I still think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to go to the Super Bowl this year. Give me Pittsburgh 5.5.
Yeah, no, I don't hate your pick. I'm not picking this as my game, but I would slightly lean towards Cincinnati because that number is so high, and I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. But the reason why I didn't pick this game is because I could see Le'Veon Bell completely controlling this game, having 150 yards and maybe a couple of scores, and that Pittsburgh defense has shut down every receiver that they've played against, and I think they're going to shut down AJ Green as well. So that's why I just completely stayed away from that game. But my next game, this game I'm a little bit scared about. I hate picking my team, but I just absolutely have to because the game is too damn juicy. The Jaguars are -3 going on the road to the Colts. Now I know now you could look at this -3 on the road and they're basically saying, well, if they were at home, they'd be a 9-point favorite because it's a 6-point swing, usually roughly a 6-point swing on home field. And I don't think they would be a 9-point favorite at home. But the thing is, the Andrew Luck news for Indy that he might not be playing for the rest of the year, I think that is absolutely devastating.
Did I not call that at the beginning of the year?
Well, no, but he had a setback. You didn't call that he'd have a setback.
No, but if you can't throw a tennis ball entering training camp, your shoulder is not going to be ready to play in an NFL football game in the next 3 months.
Absolutely, but having that news actually hit you, and the team still had hope that he's going to come back, and we just need to tread water, and when he comes back, we'll go on our playoff run. But now that it doesn't look like he's going to be playing at all this year, that is a huge devastation to a team, and you just going into work like that day, you just, we have no shot. It's just like if you had a boss that was just completely crummy, you're just going into work, I hate my boss, like I hate my coworkers, and it's like if you had good coworkers, you go in and I like my coworker, I like working with these people, and they give me a good chance for success. Andrew Luck is the one that gives them the best chance for success. Now, Jacoby Brissett isn't absolutely terrible. He is a huge upgrade over Scott Tolzien, but I don't think it's going to really matter because they're not going to be able to throw the ball against Jacksonville's defense. And the Colts are really bad at running the ball, so they're not going to be able to take advantage of Jacksonville's huge deficiency of not being able to stop the run. Jacksonville, they're great at running the ball. They're number 1 in the NFL in running the ball, and they're going against a team that is horrible at stopping the run. They're good off losses. They're number 1 in the NFL, like I said, at running the ball. That's why I have the Jaguars -3.
I'm going Saints 4.5 over Green Bay. It's in Green Bay. I think it'll be a close game.
See,
it should be a close game. It should be 21-17, something along those lines. And I would lose if that's the case. But something's telling me in my gut New Orleans is going to win by at least 5 this week. The Packers just had a devastating injury in losing Aaron Rodgers, and I know I just made a case for Brett Hundley being okay, and he's got all these weapons.
Sounds like you're hedging your bet right here.
But that doesn't mean that they're gonna. This game could end up being 30-17, high-scoring game. Brett Hundley can still put up points. He can still have 20 fantasy points or 15 fantasy points. Devontae Adams still have 50 fantasy points. And New Orleans wins by 5.
Okay.
And I think that is the most likely scenario. I think.
The thing that scares me about this, and I was going to take this game when it was at 5.5, plus 5.5 for Green Bay and plus 6 for Green Bay, because that's a huge number for a team on the road to be that much of a favorite. But because it's not 4.5, I just stayed away from it because I don't think. If you look at it, if they were at home, would they be a 10.5-point favorite? Maybe, but that's still a really huge number that I just want to stay away from.
Yeah, but there's just so much air taken out of the building in Green Bay right now.
No, I definitely feel you on that. Kind of the same reason why I just brought up for why the Colts are going to suck.
Most of these points that I think Hundley and Adams can produce will probably be garbage time points.
Okay.
The Saints should take out an early lead. I think the Saints should take out an early lead, they should be able to come out and throw the ball and dominate on offense like they do against every team. And without Aaron Rodgers, those first 3, 4, maybe 5 drives are going to be a little rough. As the game moves forward, it should become closer, but the Saints should jump out to an early 2-3 touchdown lead.
Okay. My next game, I have the Vikings minus 5.5 at the Ravens. Now, I hate laying 5.5 points, but look, the Ravens are one of the fakest teams in the NFL. I've been betting against the Ravens all year long, and I've been winning money off the Ravens not covering spreads all year long. Now, the Stephon Diggs, if he was playing, I would absolutely love this pick, but he's not. He's already been ruled out, so that makes me a little bit wary, but I think they'll be able to run the ball against the Ravens, and they have one of the most underrated defenses in the NFL. They're not going to allow the Ravens to get any yards or points at all, and especially when this defense is at home. Case Keenum is one of the better backups in the league. I expect him to play well. He still has Thielen, he still has Kyle Rudolph, and I think this offense is...
And McKinnon.
Yeah, exactly, still McKinnon, exactly. So... the Ravens last week, they played the Bears, and I picked the Bears to cover the spread, and it was a lot closer than it should have been because the Ravens had 2 lucky special team scores and that they really shouldn't have had, made the game a lot closer. I don't expect the Ravens to have those 2 special teams / defensive scores this week. Give me the Vikings minus 5.5.
Taking a big spread. It's unlike you.
Yeah.
Unlike you. Unless it's the underdog. This next pick, though, you're going to love, I think, but New England is going to beat the Falcons by more than 3.5.
Yeah.
I hope I'm jinxing them.
Yeah,
but I don't think that the Patriots are going to get back to being the Patriots sooner than later. Right now they're 4-2. They could be 1-5. They could be 2-4. They could be 3-3. They could be a lot of things. Their season has gone so unplanned, and it's just crazy to think about that. Even though it's unlikely, they honestly could be 1-5, and I can't see them being that Patriot team for much longer. They're going to get back on track, and before we know it, the Patriots defense will be back on track, and we'll be seeing the competitive Steelers-Patriots for the AFC Championship game. You got to take New England here.
Yeah, I just wanted to stay away from this game because it was at 3.5. I just can't. I think there's going to be a lot of points we put up in this game. I mean, you think so, but I mean, look at their defense. Their defense has been one of the worst in the NFL, and Matt Ryan with Julio Jones and Taylor Gabriel and Devonta Freeman and Tevin Coleman, like they have a good offense, and that offense hasn't been good in the second half this year. Partly because I don't think Steve Sarkisian can really make second half adjustments, but I expect him to be putting up points in the first half of this game, and then New England to kind of come back and win the game. But I don't think I could see New England getting blown out. Also, like it's not like
I think Bill Belichick is the best at taking away the opposing team's best player, and there is a chance that he will take Julio Jones out of the game. And if he does that, his game won't be close. I think Bill Belichick is too good of a coach to let his defense end in the bottom third of the league by the season's end. And I think that this 31st ranked defense, or whatever it is at the moment, will be somewhere in the 12 to 15 range by the end of the season.
One thing that I thought was interesting that I want to bring up, when we never do this at all, but the over is 56.5. Now, last year going into the Super Bowl, it was at 58. And New England's defense was ranked number 1. New England's defense is now ranked like 31st or 32nd, whatever it is, and the Falcons' offense is not as good as last year, but they still have a lot of the same weapons.
But I also think they have a lot of pressure on them right now because, just like I mentioned last week, the storyline leading into this game is what happened last week. The Jets blow a lead and the Patriots come back and win, and the Falcons blow a lead and a second half lead and lose the game. Is the exact same thing each team did in the Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
And I think that with those 2 games on their mind,
and
they're
then
going to be coming off of one, and then they're going to be coming off of the Super Bowl loss. I think that pressure is going to build up for the Falcons, and they are going to have to close it out. And I think that all of that pressure is going to make them collapse.
See, I could see them feeling that pressure in the second half, but I think in the first half they're going to come out with this revenge mentality. But that's not going to be the entire game.
I just hope it's a great game. It's Sunday Night Football, baby.
Yeah.
I mean, we gotta. I'm sick of seeing the. What did we see last week? Colts and that was
Giants Broncos.
Giants Broncos, and that ended up being a decent game. But everybody thought it was going to be.
I thought it was
better than what we expected.
Well, it was
but
the exact. I thought it was
exact opposite.
just as boring, but the exact opposite.
Like I want to see an exciting football game on Sunday night. Hopefully, this will do it.
But I think with what I was saying, I would take the over. It's 56.5, and last year it was at 58, and the defense was supposedly better for New England. I would take that over.
I think it's going to be 31-17 Patriots.
Okay, so you have it not going over.
No, and I think that the Patriots should win by 2 touchdowns. Yeah, we're not talking about an Atlanta Falcons team who was in the Super Bowl last year. We're talking about a different team now.
No, they're a lot different.
So,
and my next pick, my final pick, one of my favorite picks, the Washington Redskins are a 4.5-point underdog on the road at Philly. Now, I think this is going to be a complete revenge game for the Redskins because they lost week 1 at home. They got humiliated by about 13 points when the game.
This game scares me.
I
stayed away.
Well, see, now I think it's because the number is wrong because teams have been overrating Philly, and I love Philly. Philly's my dark horse from the beginning of the year, so it's probably a little surprising that I'm not taking Philly here. But Washington, I think they're going to have that mentality that, like, look, we should have won last week. We were driving with a couple minutes left. We were down by 5. We were going to score a touchdown. They're going to have that same mentality. The game was a lot closer than the final score was. Now, I expect them to be coming out, and Cousins is a lot better than I thought. And the secondary for Philly is worse than it was week 1. I expect Washington to win this game outright, but I'm picking them plus 4.5 just to stay safe.
My last one is going to be a sketchy pick, but not all picks are easy. I think the only easy one here is Denver against the Chargers at a -1 underdog or +1 underdog. My last pick is going to be Dallas -6 over San Francisco. Now, yes, this game is in San Francisco. They just lost one of their best linebackers, if not their best defensive player on their team, in Navarro Bowman. He may not be the same player he was 5 years ago or 4 years ago, but he brings experience to that roster. And I think losing him is like losing the quarterback of your defense, and that's going to affect you. That you can't just lose a player like that and not impact your team. Now, Dallas may not beat them by 25 like they should be because of the talent differential, but they should be able to beat them by 6. And if I had to bet on this game, I'm taking Dallas.
Okay, yeah, no, I stayed away from this game because I didn't like the number at all. I mean, Dallas is coming off the bye week, which I think is going to really help them here.
And they've lost the previous 2 games before that, and I think they need this. This is a must-win for Dallas.
Yeah, it's absolutely a must-win for Dallas. And it's interesting because, I don't know if you brought this up, but the San Francisco 49ers, they're 0-6 right now, but they're 5-1 against the spread.
Well,
that's absolutely insane.
It's about to be 5-2.
That's absolutely insane.
About to be 5-2.
But that's it with our picks here. I'm going to go 5-0. James, you're going to go 0-5, and I'm going to take the lead. You got anything to say about that?
If that's true, next time we're here, I owe you a Jersey Mike sub. But I highly doubt that I'm going 0-5. You're going 5-0.
Sounds good. All right. We will be coming back to you later in the week. You're listening to BTH.